brilliant skill from Lionel Messi. Surging forward with real menace here. Brilliant from Messi. Oh, what a goal that is!
Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of 4 Minutes Added Time. I'm Param Kothari and I'm joined by Vedant, Sam, and Shival, who has returned after missing 1 week. And he has a lot to say this week after missing out on one episode. But so let's start with last week's fixtures. Let's start with Everton versus West Brom. So I think that was a good match for Everton. Dominic Calvert-Lewin started off with a hat trick, and James Rodriguez looks amazing. He looks like a revolutionary player for Everton, and he is like their only hope for getting top 6 or even maybe top 4. You never know. So Everton are looking good. It was West Brom, but they're playing good football. Ancelotti, Rodriguez, they look good. But let's see. Like as time goes, you'll get to know better. So I don't want to waste too much time on Everton. Let's go to the second best fixture of the week, according to me, which was Manchester United versus Crystal Palace at Old Trafford. I don't think I have any rights to talk about this episode, about this fixture. I'll just pass it on to Shival. Shanky, it's all yours. Go on, rant.
Okay, so it's very easy for me to rant right now, but I won't do that because, see, I can defend my club right now because we didn't have a preseason like the other clubs did. But still, that's no excuse for us to lose the match at Old Trafford 3-1. That is not acceptable. So throughout this transfer window, I was like, Sancho should be the main priority for us. But right now, I feel centre-back should be the main priority. Like, our defense is absolute shambles. And we just cannot compete with this defense right now. So we have to fix our defense before Jadon Sancho. I do think Jadon Sancho will be a statement signing, but the defense should be a priority now. By defense, I mean a centre-back and a left-back. I think we will get a left-back this summer, but a centre-back is still a big issue.
But I really thought Lindelof had a man of the match performance. Like he was amazing. Like I loved watching him play. He was so good. Like Lindelof with Harry Maguire. Wow, what a dream! I can only dream of such a defensive pairing. So yeah, Sam, what do you think? How was United's performance?
Oh, shambolic defense, definitely. That has to be the highlight of, the game. The defense is crumbling, that is for sure. And what I feel, and I think I spoke about this last time as well, that the easier fixtures, we have so many competitive teams this time in the Premier League. If the easier fixtures like Crystal Palace, like maybe Fulham, newly promoted sides, you have to kill them. You have to kill these fixtures. Otherwise, it becomes really difficult to compete for top 4 or even, top 6 because the competition is so much more tougher than last season. We've got Leeds, we've got Everton, we've got some great signings in the Premier League. Spurs are looking so good. Arsenal are also looking good. With signing wise, I'm talking right now just about signings and, definitely consistency, I feel is going to be a really important key.
Yeah.
And, definitely for United, the major issue right now is defense.
Yeah, and it's not just the defense actually, because I've seen a lot of people on Twitter and on social media blaming the Glazers, which is fair enough. They should, because the incompetence showed by them is absolutely fucking stupid. And the main issue in that match wasn't just the defense, I feel. It was the coaching by Oli. I don't think the players that we had on the field should have lost that way, personally. And Scott McTominay shouldn't have started that match. Our CDM was the biggest hole in that match. People didn't realize that, but then, yeah. So we have to invest in that area too, because Zaha was running through us like a butter itself. So, yeah.
Do you think Van de Beek, if he was not on the bench and if he had started, he would have made a difference? I feel
100,
like...
100%. Because Pogba had virus and he didn't train with the team, like literally he didn't train with the team. He just started the match directly. So that shouldn't have happened. And Van de Beek should have started the match for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and no, but it's all good blaming United and Oli and like whatever. But again, like on the other side, Crystal Palace were amazing on the counter attack. Zaha like literally killed your defense. Like he was amazing. He was making good runs, and and obviously they are as Townsend said in one of his interviews, that United were there to be caught cold, and they did catch y'all cold. So y'all were there for the taking, and they knew it because they had one game more played than y'all, and you didn't have a proper preseason, as you said. So they did have an advantage. They took that advantage, which is like good. So that's what I feel. Crystal Palace played amazingly well. Yeah, United was supposed to win, but yeah.
So one thing that actually I want to ask even Shanky, and I want to really point out that we're talking about the board, we're talking about the coaching staff, we're talking about everyone, but we should really talk about the players as well. You have to even blame the players as well, for this kind of a performance. It's just not the coaching staff or preseason. Definitely, I agree, and I'm with you with that. In that you need a adequate preseason, but the players as well. Harry Maguire, it's been a year now since he's here. Lindelof has been for a couple of years as well. So are they good enough to play at this kind of a quality? The players have to take responsibility as well. The midfield, definitely they may have had an off game, but the defense definitely has to take some responsibility as well.
I do agree with that, but then I won't blame the players completely on the situation because they clearly weren't fit in that match. Clearly they weren't fit. Because, see, Maguire, I know you guys don't rate him at all. I still feel that if a pacey centre back comes next to him, he can perform. I do think that. And I'm honestly not convinced with Ole's coaching now. I'm honestly not convinced with that anymore. I think we need a good coach now, and it'll be better for us for the future at least.
No,
So let's see. And I think that this loss will do us good because our board will sign players in the future now. So yeah.
So I had one of my friends saying, like he's a United fan. He wanted Ole to quit to make a statement, like that will be a statement for the board. So which I don't agree with, obviously, because I think that will jeopardize your entire season, and that will come in the way of you all getting top 4 or top 6, because if a manager leaves, a new manager comes in, that's a lot of disruption in between the season. And in between season, like sacking of a manager is never a good idea. And I don't think it has ever worked out. So I don't think Ole quitting should be a statement for your Glazers and all. But yeah, so that's what I feel. Like I don't know much about United. It's up to you. But yeah. So anyway, moving on. Like United will there'll be ups and downs in United seasons all the time. Like as as long as they get their act together, I think this will be consistent. So anyway, let's move on. Let's go to Arsenal West Ham. And honestly, I really don't think Arsenal played very well that match. But again, they got the 3 points. That's what matters. And they somehow in the end got they scored and they got the 3 points, which is good. So yeah, that's what I feel.
You're right. Result wasn't that surprising, to be honest. However, I felt West Ham really impressive in the second half.
Yeah.
They had a lot of energy, a lot of chances. They just couldn't take their chances. Arsenal showed a really good, promising young side with Saka and Nketiah. Those players basically stepped up and made the difference. And something I would like to point out here about Arsenal, we've already noticed this, that they're a different side compared to last season. And why I say this is because this match showed me that they are capable of grinding results.
Yeah.
They are not a good side. We saw that. They are still shaky at defense. 3-4-3 is working for them. But to survive in the Premier League and to compete for top 4 and top 6, you need to grind out results. Even though you play bad, you need to get the 3 points. You should see Arteta's reaction when he won the game. He was celebrating as he won a trophy, because that was something he has never seen before. So that was something that I observed.
Yeah, because that's what Liverpool did last season as well. We were playing badly throughout the match, and then you somehow grind a win. I'm not saying they're going to challenge for the title, but they're good signs for Arsenal. But yeah, it was just West Ham, and West Ham at home is an easy match for Arsenal. So shouldn't look too much into it. Anyway, let's move on to the North London rivals, which is Spurs, who played Southampton away. And I think that was a statement-winning performance.
Yeah.
Because Son scored 4 goals, Harry Kane with 4 assists, 5 goals away. They did, concede 2 goals, obviously, but they look good.
So yeah, I personally feel that the first half wasn't great for Spurs, but the second half was vintage Mourinho. if you want to say that.
Yeah.
Because the only thing he did throughout the second half was long balls, and Son went through. That is what Mourinho does. That is what he's known for. So, but yeah, see, if he plays this way throughout the season now, I think he can grind results out. But let's see. Plus, Gareth Bale in that squad will be something else. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gareth Bale, I think, is a statement signing for Spurs. If he's fit, he's definitely one of the best players in the world, no doubt. And something about the result, especially, was that Harry Kane. Normally, everyone associate him to be a prolific goal scorer,
Yeah.
but you really saw a different side of him, which I think people don't really rate him as.
Yeah.
Amazing 4 assists, and it was just not like by the way or just happened out of chance. At times the assists are given just due to mistakes or something just happens in the spur of the moment. They were perfect through balls which he was passing on to Son, and it looked as if they've trained that, or they've practiced that as well. Son with his speed, pace, and finishing could
Amazing.
really benefit with the assist.
Yeah.
So it was really a good game for Spurs perspective. And I think there's a lot more to come from Spurs.
Yeah, taking nothing away from Spurs' dominant performance, deserved win. There was one quick thing I would like to mention is that there's one thing I noticed was the resurgence of Ndombele. That guy had a really poor season last season, and he was the one who actually created the first goal, that turn and that pass to Kane.
Amazing.
So I feel like that was one key point, and it's good for Spurs. And one thing I noticed was that great attacking football, but it was at the same time poor defending from Southampton. I felt like you couldn't have avoided the goals, but I feel they could have done a little better than kind of competing. But I don't know, I didn't see that fight in them.
Okay, so when it comes to Ndombele, I feel he's going to be exactly like what Hazard was for Chelsea, what Pogba was for United when it comes to Jose Mourinho. There is going to be a fallout with him. But let's see now. So let's move on to the big one now. Chelsea versus Liverpool.
Yeah, the big one.
This was supposed to be a title decider, and it hurts a lot. But yeah, so Param, please carry on with this.
No. This was, I think, this was obviously the fixture of the week, and two amazing teams, Liverpool and Chelsea, going head to head at Stamford Bridge, and Chelsea obviously wanted to prove their point. And they wanted to make a statement that we are here, and we are here, and we are going to challenge Liverpool for the title. But I think Klopp had different plans. No, but the first half was very tight. Chelsea were they looked good, and I was threatened by Werner because Fabinho was a makeshift defender, which I was not confident at all. But Werner coming in. Werner coming in and running at Fabinho. I really thought he did a good job. But I think the turning point of the game was the Christensen red card, which was obviously a clear red card for me. And I think that changed the whole game. And then second half, Thiago Alcantara coming in. Obviously, that had to change the game. And, from there on, I didn't see us losing at all. We could have scored 3-4, many more goals. And obviously, shout out to Alisson for saving the penalty. The game could have changed on his head at the moment, but it didn't. And we got a clean sheet at Stamford Bridge, which not many teams will be able to get. So, yeah, that's what I feel. We killed it.
Yeah. So, the game, all in all, was a very good game, I feel. The first half was pretty even till Christensen messed it up completely. But the second half, I don't know what to say now because it hurts a lot. Thiago Alcantara is an absolute gem. Seriously, 30 million was an absolute steal for you guys. And I'm really worried about United now when we face them at Old Trafford or even at Anfield. I don't know what's going to happen now. But yeah, let's see, man. Sam, what are your thoughts on this? You are the Chelsea man.
Hard result, difficult to swallow, definitely. From a Chelsea perspective, from a Chelsea fans perspective, we had so many more expectations, honestly. Starting with Christensen, moment of madness, small margins change the game. It's a fact, in such a high profile game, if you make a mistake like that. And, let's talk a little bit. Let me talk a little bit more about the mistake, particularly just because I think there's a miscommunication. There is no communication between the keeper and the defender. The keeper just started running, which is Kepa, obviously. And I think we will talk more about Kepa as well, about his mistake later on in the game. But Christensen did not seem to have any confidence on Kepa. Kepa didn't seem to, he didn't really make a statement. Whether was he coming out towards the goal, whether he was what was his intentions, and then definitely Christensen did the tackle. You can't take that away from him. Christensen, moment of madness, like I said before. So it's really hard. The first half was encouraging for us Chelsea fans. I feel Werner was having some good moments, although Fabinho did well.
Yeah.
Keep him quiet. I think we miss Pulisic, especially in the wing. I think the wing areas we were not really good. Werner is not a typical winger. The wing positions, he likes to come inside, but he's not that good in wing play as I expect. As maybe a Pulisic could be, or a Ziyech would be. So the wing play was definitely missing in our game. I think that was a huge loss. Big shout out to Jorginho, definitely. He missed the penalty. Werner created something out of nothing. Thiago came, and definitely that was the only. That was one of the positive things that we managed to get a penalty, but we did miss it. So there was nothing really positive about it, obviously.
I would like to give a big shout out to our tactics. The fact that second goal was a prime example of gegenpressing, to be honest, because the fact that Mane, before he scored that goal and he intercepted Kepa's pass, he made a mistake. And you can see how these guys train on the training field. He fucked up a pass, went straight up, intercepted Kepa, scored the goal. Sorry, Sam, but he paid the price and he deserved the goal. I mean, it was just beautiful to see the goal in play. And obviously when Thiago came in, there was a whole different excitement to the game with 75 passes, most in the league, by the way. Just
record breaking
out there. Yeah. All right. I did my bit. All right.
That was actually a very good stat, and that should be the headline stat of the podcast. But anyway, I think Kepa did give away the game, and Kepa, as soon as Kepa made a mistake, the cameraman smartly panned to Peter Cech on his phone, I think sealing the deal with Mendy. And I think that was Kepa's last game as a Chelsea player. But I think that was a much needed win for Liverpool's confidence, and I think that will do good for us. Winning away at Stamford Bridge, clean sheet, that'll do us a whole lot of good.
Yeah.
And so I think let's move on to the other contenders for the title, Manchester City. And boy, was I hoping Wolves to pull out something, but of course, Man City first game, they were firing at all ends, and they wanted that win. They wanted to make a statement, obviously. And Wolves away has always been tricky for them, but they got the win. And I think KDB, obviously, he had to score the first goal, meant to be. But I think City look scary good.
No, but I feel yesterday City weren't scary good because the second half was completely dominated by Wolves. They should have been up or at least got a draw in that match. But it was very clear that even City players weren't fit because their bench wasn't as strong. But in the end, all that matters is the 3 points. So let's see now what happens with them. And please, Vedant.
A different side to City, actually. I saw that City were actually a little more cautious in the second half because, I said in the last video, they lost both their games and it was a last-minute drama in the last season. This is something very rare you see from the City side. They were actually wasting time in the last time. You don't see that City. You were expecting to score 4-5 goals. I mean, Jesus scored, in the last few minutes, but they was being so careful and they were trying their best not to concede. So the 3 points was all they needed. The game as such wasn't as convincing. I would expect, obviously, I said more from the City side in the future. So let's see what happens. And that should wrap up all the fixtures for the last week. Okay, so let's move on for the fixtures, the next game week. And first up, we have Brighton United. Wow, this will be an interesting game only because we saw that the defense was in shambles, United, and Brighton are in good form. They scored 3 against Newcastle. So, in my opinion, obviously I'm not going to say a lot about United. I'll leave that to Shanky, but as a prediction, I would say would be a draw, in my opinion. I don't see United winning this game, only because of Brighton's form and United's form. So, we'll see.
So I personally don't disagree with you a lot on this because even this will be like a preseason game to us. I personally feel that because it'll at least take 2 weeks for us to get into like proper form or whatever it is. But to be honest, if we draw or lose this game, our season is already like in a very bad position right now. So I do think we'll grind the result out, but let's see what will happen. So I'm going for a 3-1 United win. So I don't know.
No, Brighton have been in good form. They played well against Chelsea in the opening fixtures, and they scored 3 against Newcastle, 2 early goals, and they looked good. But I think Ole will want to come back and he motivate his players, and I don't see them losing against Brighton. Like, I know it's an away game, but it doesn't matter. Brighton. Like, United should be beating Brighton. If they don't beat Brighton, then there are serious problems going on at Manchester United, which I would love. But I unfortunately don't think that is going to happen. I think for me, I think it's going to be a close one, 1-0 or 2-1 to United. So close one, but yeah, United.
So what I think is that, Brighton have a really good defense. So they would be, they have really good defenders as well. Ben White is there, Dunk is there.
Yeah.
So what United have to, United attack has to really step up this game. United midfield has to provide the creating spark. And I think that's the only way that they'll be able to manage to, penetrate the defense as well. I think it could be a draw because I really see Brighton maybe, defensively holding United out. So I would go for a 1-1. Moving on to next week's fixture. Moving to the next fixture, West Brom Chelsea. I think that Chelsea has to make a comeback, and I really think that Chelsea will make a comeback. West Brom have not been in that great form as well, and I really think that Chelsea would be able to comfortably win, hopefully a 2-0 or 3-0, and maybe show some of their attacking prowess as well, because right now we haven't seen that many goals from Chelsea so far. I think Werner has to start scoring, I think, because a lot of pressure is on Werner to perform. He is the main man, and definitely I think Havertz also is now slowly coming under pressure. He also needs to start having a good game, and I think this West Brom game can't come soon enough for both of them.
Yeah, I personally feel that it won't be a 3-4-0 thrashing in this match because we all know what's going to happen in that match. West Brom are going to park the bus, and Chelsea just have to unlock them. They have the players to unlock them, but I just don't see them like battering them left, right, and center. So I'm just going for a 2-0 Chelsea win. But yeah, I think Werner will score his first goal for Chelsea this week.
Yeah, it's high time Werner scores. He's taking away all my FPL points. So I'm leaving hopes all on Werner right now. But I know West Brom, like as Sam said, couldn't come sooner for Werner and Havertz. That is completely true. They both need this match, and I think Werner will finally start scoring goals for Chelsea. And I honestly don't blame Werner and Havertz for not being. No one can expect two players coming from Germany to straight away start scoring goals. They're not gods. So it'll take time, but West Brom will be the perfect match to show what they actually have. And I think I'll disagree to Shanky. It'll be a thrashing. It'll be a 4-1 thrashing.
Could be.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I think I agree with all of you guys. It's going to be a dominant Chelsea win. But question for Sam. Does Kepa get replaced by Mendy the next game?
Oh no!
Already.
So the Mendy rumors haven't stopped here. Every time I open, the Chelsea transfer news, or I just open the app as well, the Chelsea transfer news app, and it's always that Mendy is about to sign, and it's been going on for quite a while, and it's actually frankly getting frustrating. Just because Kepa also is not helping in the fact, the Kepa is making mistakes regularly. So it's definitely not a great situation goalkeeping-wise for Chelsea. I really don't think he's going to start, but definitely Caballero. I think Caballero may have to take over from Kepa because right now Kepa is in a really, really bad place. I think he's completely lost his confidence, and mistakes are something which have to they have to be eliminated from the game because these things cost points. So Kepa has to be dropped.
I don't know what you're talking about. I think Kepa was man of the match last game. No. Joking aside, but I think Lampard in his conference he said Caballero is going to start the next match. Kepa.
Oh yeah,
he's open.
He was talking about the FA Cup game.
Oh,
but So Lampard did say that Caballero is going to start, but there's still a doubt whether Kepa will start or Caballero will start the Premier League game.
Okay. My bad.
See, I have one more question for Sam actually regarding Kepa. Do you think we all know that his Chelsea career is finished? We all know that. Do you think
Wow.
his footballing career at the top level is done?
Ooh.
Who's going to take
You know,
him?
I personally hope not because I do feel bad for that guy a lot. But do you think so?
I feel that he's lacking confidence. I think the first thing about a goalkeeper needs, or a goalkeeper has to has to be a really confident person by nature. And what I really think is that I want to draw parallels with what Deha's first season as well. He was criticized massively. This is one of the early seasons for Kepa as well. He did have an okay
Yeah.
first season and a very bad second season, but definitely now he has to start performing. He has to start picking up his game because the scrutiny is so much on his game right now, and his aspects of the game, that other things are not being really looked at.
Yeah, I think your point about De Gea was spot on. Like, he had a bad first season, and Kepa had a bad first season. So I'm not saying he's going to be any good. He's not going to have a career because who's going to buy him? Like, he was so expensive in the first place. Chelsea will want to get at
Exactly.
least some money out of it, and no
Yeah.
one is going to pay money for like Kepa.
No, since he's the most expensive goalkeeper in the league, that's why all eyes are on him. And he considering his latest form, but I don't think I can say a lot because we had a history of bad keepers. I don't have
Yeah.
to tell the names, so I understand Chelsea's perspective. Just to make Sam Little feel better, poor guy, all eyes on him right now. So yeah, Mignolet, Karius, just name them all. But yeah, it'll take time as we move on. So next game, Spurs Newcastle. This will be a good game, I think, because hot form both teams. Callum Wilson has some good scoring form, and Spurs are dominating the attack with Kane and Son. And I feel like there were instances in the first half on the Spurs game where where Southampton were dominating, and I feel like as though we did notice a really good, strong performance from Spurs, but you guys are forgetting that they were not dominating the whole 90 minutes. I still feel there are
Yeah.
loopholes in them. So it's easy to say on paper that, yeah, Spurs are going to win, but I don't see Newcastle not giving a fight. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think it'll be a debut for Reguilon, and I think he has the
Yeah.
potential to show what he can bring at left back, and that is a position where they needed strengthening, and it was clear in the last match. So there's already one improvement coming in for the Newcastle match, but honestly, like I actually think it's going to be a very boring match. Newcastle, very boring team. Spurs, very boring team. They did score 5 goals, I know, but it's Mourinho. Like, I don't expect them to score too many goals. I think it's going to be a 2-1 win for Spurs.
Actually, I completely agree with Param on this. This match, I don't know if you're not a Spurs fan, how the hell are you going to watch this match? Because this is going to be literally like, I don't know what to call it now, but I'm straight up going for a 1-1 draw in this match because
Wow.
Steve Bruce is going to park the bus again, just like the West Brom match. And Jose Mourinho, I just don't know if he can get consistent results on and on. So, yeah, I'm just going for a 1-1 on this match.
And I actually want to know what you guys think about the Dele Alli situation, because right now
Oh, yeah.
what his
Good
future is
one.
going to be in the club. We haven't spoken about it in the last week fixture as well. It looks like Dele Alli is not part of Mourinho's plan. They have to resolve that situation as well. And in the midfield, do they have enough of strength? Because Dele Alli has been a huge part of the squad for a very long time. The English player that he is, and the influence that he has in the squad. So what do you guys think? What his role is going to be for the future for Spurs?
No, like, I think midfield wise, I think he's sorted. Like, after signing Hoiberg, and as Vedant said earlier, Ndombele and Sissoko, and they look good. Like, midfield
Yeah,
wise, it is a
yeah.
Mourinho
They
midfield.
do
Like,
have. They do have. Yeah.
it's a very hunky midfield. So it's a Mourinho midfield, and in the Dele Alli situation, I think he's been linked to PSG, but I think the perfect
Yeah.
move for him would be Bayern Munich because they are playing some amazing attacking football, and he'll get to win trophies finally. And I think he can add something. And Muller, like, Shanky will hate me for this. Muller is about, like, he's aging, so he needs a replacement. They need a young replacement, and Muller isn't getting any younger. So I think Dele Alli could be a perfect match.
Oh, that's actually a hot topic. Dele Alli out of Spurs. I still believe at the moment that it's unlikely as per me, but as media and news is reporting, he might go to PSG or Bayern. I don't know what Param said, but I feel Param had a good point. He won't necessarily replace Muller, but I feel like they lost Thiago, they lost Felipe Coutinho, they lost two elite midfielders in Bayern. So I feel like Dele Alli would be a good addition to the team, but. So Jose is going to have a tough time in his squad depth because in Premier League you need a good squad depth to survive, and with one of your key midfielders out, I don't know how they're going to last.
First of all, for the love of God, I have no clue why the fuck has Param Kothari compared Thomas Muller with Dele Alli. How the hell have you compared them both together? I have no clue. How the hell is he going to replace Thomas Muller at Bayern Munich? And plus, Vedant Sharma, you too.
What?
How the hell have you compared Thiago Alcantara to Dele Alli? You just said that Thiago left, so they have to replace him with someone. Dele Alli won't replace Thiago Alcantara. Straight up.
No.
So,
1 second. Let me clear myself. Please, I said I didn't say he's going to be the next Thomas Muller. I said he's going to they need a young midfielder. They need a new attacking midfielder, and that is exactly what Bayern Munich will be looking for. Once Muller retires, he will need a replacement. Now that Havertz is gone to Chelsea, I think that would have been the perfect replacement. But now that he is gone, I don't see many young midfielders who are open to leave their current clubs. I'm not saying he's at the same level, but with the players around him and the coaching, he can get there. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying he's already there. He can get there. He has the potential to get there. And he is nowhere near Muller's level. Okay, please.
There is no way I'm comparing Thiago to Dele Alli. Shanky is just getting too salty because he didn't get Thiago and he has no elite midfielders in his team. So don't get too salty right now. Don't get too salty right now. You have listen to me. I'm trying to tell you here that my point was that they lost two midfielders. They just need a good midfielder to be in the middle of the park. There's no way Dele Alli is replacing them. But then the fact that they need some midfield energy, I think Dele Alli might be good. I know Shanky has a lot to say today. Please go on, Shanky. Please.
What did you just say? Manchester United don't have any midfielders. We have a World Cup winner, Paul Pogba. We have a Portuguese international, Bruno Fernandes. We have a Dutch gem, Van de Beek. How dare you say that?
Don't
we
forget
don't have any? What were you saying?
Don't forget
Matic. Yeah.
Matic is he was a good midfielder at the time, but yeah, whatever. Forget that. I still can't believe you guys rate Dele Alli so much. But yeah, whatever it is. Let's move on to the next one now. Yeah, Sam, you want to say something about it, please?
Yeah, I agree with Shanky wholeheartedly. I think Dele Alli is not going to fit in Bayern. I think Dele Alli is not at all a Bayern Munich player. I think Dele Alli has major attitude issues. I hate Dele Alli as a player.
Of course.
Wow.
And,
Spurs,
I
of course.
really don't need Dele Alli. Look at the squad. Look at the young talent that they have. Dele Alli is just going to mess the dynamics of Bayern Munich. Okay, so moving on to the next fixture. Let's talk about Man City Leicester. I think this is a fixture which really could be interesting as well. Leicester has been under the radar for a while, but they have managed to get the wins. They managed to win. The new fullback who's replaced Ben Chilwell. He's performing really well. He's in form. Vardy, as usual, is always in form. So I think this could be a really good game.
Yeah, and Leicester, they finally signed the Undertaker. That's how they announced Chinese Under. But they Leicester looked good. They played good. Vardy, he needs to start scoring again. So I'm saying it's going to be a tough match for City, but I know deep down they're going to win. But I'm going to predict 2-1 for Leicester because I really don't want City to win, and Leicester can beat City on a good day, counter-attack. City have an off day. So maybe I'm just getting my hopes high, but let's see.
Yeah, I'm going to make a bold prediction for this one because I just feel that City have got their one game right now. They just warmed up properly. Like they've got the preseason now. So if City have a fully fit team, I just think that City are going to thrash them completely. I personally do feel that. So I'm going for a 4-0 win for City on this one. And it's at the MTR too, so that makes a difference if it does. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, with City's squad depth and Leicester's form, I feel like this should be a straightforward City win. KDB was in full form. He showed his magic in the last game. He truly dominated the midfield, and I feel like he's gonna come up with the same performance in this game. Leicester, Jamie Vardy is back in form, and they obviously have James Maddison in the middle of the park. I think this would be a probably 3-1 to Man City.
I am going to go with Param's prediction as well. I think that I'm hoping that Leicester will be able to defeat City. I think City didn't have that against in the last fixture as well. Leicester have been consistently performing and getting the points, so I'm going to go for a 2-1 Leicester win. Moving on to the next fixture, I think the game week fixture and the main fixture for next week would be Liverpool Arsenal. Two sides who are in good form, winning some really good and important matches as well. This could be an important fixture. Liverpool, who's having tough oppositions one after the other, could this match be the one in which they draw points, or are they going to go on winning?
No, I really think so. Arsenal beat us the last 2 times we played them, and there is no chance in hell Klopp uses the third one against Arsenal. Like, obviously, that's what I'm hoping. But anything could happen, and it's at Anfield. And this will be, I think, Thiago's full match debut. He'll start from the first minute, and Aubameyang obviously is like in amazing form. Arsenal is in amazing form. They will threaten us, but I think Liverpool will be too strong for Arsenal. And Arsenal needs some humbling down, and who better than Liverpool with Thiago and the front three, everyone raring at them. I don't see Arsenal getting anything out of it. So it's going to be a 3-0 win, bold prediction from me, 3-0 to Liverpool. So yeah.
See, this is a very interesting one because everyone knows my love for Liverpool. Obviously, I'm sarcastic. And I love Arsenal too, like a lot.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, so I want Arsenal to get something out of this game because I just don't want Liverpool to run away with the league again. But I just think Liverpool are too strong for them right now. And if Thiago starts the game, like it could be like a really big scoreline or something. But I'm going to go for a 4-1 Liverpool win. So this could actually happen. So I don't know. Yeah.
No, I agree with Bo. Obviously, I mean, there's no way Liverpool is losing the game. But in terms of Arsenal's perspective, I don't agree with Param. I feel like it's not we won't be able to keep a clean sheet. It's very hard against this Arsenal side because they really have this attacking flair. And defensively, they're solid. They are playing with 3-4-3. So because that's what was the biggest issue. I feel like we couldn't cope up with the formation in the Community Shield game. And I feel like obviously Klopp is going to analyze and, we're going to definitely have more confidence going into this game. But I think it would be probably a 3-1 victory for Liverpool with Thiago scoring the goal, hopefully.
Yeah, that is very optimistic of you.
Yeah, he's not a goal scorer, but he'll create some chances, and I really hope he starts the game. Like if he doesn't start the game, I don't know. My prediction might change to 2-1. But if
it's actually the same with me. Yeah. If he doesn't start the game could actually be different. So I don't know.
Yeah, because we saw how he changed the game. So yeah, Sam, what do you think?
I think it's going to be a good game. I think Arsenal have been doing well. We can't take that away from Arsenal. Willian has come and made a good impact. Aubameyang is playing well. Lacazette coming to the side. He's playing well as well. So I think that maybe it could be a draw. I'm the only one who's here out for a draw. Maybe it could be a draw. I'll go for a draw. Maybe a 2-2 draw with goals from Salah. I think Salah would be instrumental in this kind of a game.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you, Liverpool fans. What do you guys think how the tactics are going to be? Especially, who's going to have more possession? Because Arsenal are going to play with a back three. I think that's more or less established. Do you think that Liverpool is going to dominate possession, or do you think Arsenal is going to play something like in a counter, Liverpool dominating possession, or Arsenal is going to be in the front foot itself?
I feel like, good question, Sam. I feel like it's going to be us dominating possession like any other game. I feel that's been like the key asset of a Liverpool side is to dominate the game in possession. And they know about our attacking quality. And I feel like they are going to hold us off. And the way they're going to set up is have Saka, Oba, and Laka play up front with a counter-attacking system, 3-4-3, obviously. My only concern is like this is for every game I feel on Liverpool. Like the trust that I have with my defense is Van Dijk. If he's in my team, even if he's the only one in his own half, I'm confident we're not going to concede. I'm with Alisson at the back, but I feel like um, in this game, I really feel Laka and Oba are going to combine well, and they have a really good chance beating us. So I think it's going to be a counter-attacking side from Arsenal.
So my question is about the Liverpool midfield and the Liverpool backline, because I have a very different opinion when it comes to the midfield and the defense. Because when it comes to your centre-back partnership, I personally feel that if you guys move Fabinho to the centre-back role with Van Dijk, I personally feel that that'll strengthen your defense even more. And if you move Thiago to the CDM role with Keita, with Henderson or Wijnaldum, whatever it is, you guys will be stronger. What do you think is your best backline and your midfield three?
See, according to me, yeah, obviously Fabinho had an amazing game against Chelsea, against Bonner. He's also played at centre back once at Anfield against Bayern Munich, where he kept Lewandowski in his pocket, and he had a clean sheet against him. So I do think Fabinho is he's a very good centre half option, but I really don't think Klopp is going to play him at centre back, because Gomez is back right now, and he was injured he had a minor injury. He's back, so I think he's going to go with Gomez. Obviously, I'd be more comfortable with Fabinho after looking at last week's performance, but honestly, I don't see Klopp playing Fabinho over there again unless there's injuries again. And as far as the midfield goes, yes, Thiago, Henderson, and Keita or Wijnaldum would be a good midfield combination. But and I don't want Henderson to be on the bench. I want Henderson to start. I want Thiago to start, and Wijnaldum, Keita, either one of them, depending on how Klopp wants to go, one of them can start. So yeah, I think that would be ideal. And Thiago Henderson would, give Gomez more security at the back, because Gomez is not the best defender consistently. He's good on his day, but every day he's not good. So I think Thiago Henderson and then Gomez at the back is ideal for us right now. That's what I feel.
Because I personally feel that Fabinho is your second best centre back after Van Dijk, obviously. Gomez is a good centre back, Matip is a good centre back, but then Fabinho is very underrated at the centre back role. That's what I personally feel. But
No,
yeah.
I agree with you. He had one or two maybe good games, but you have to keep in mind he's a CD and he's a makeshift centre back. So I even Fernandinho, when he was playing centre back for Man City, he had a few good games in the start when he started, but slowly got exposed with his lack of defensive knowledge. And I don't want that to happen with Fabinho. I want him only as a backup to Gomez or Matip. And I think I would even prefer Matip to Gomez right now on current form, but Matip is injured. So I think Gomez is going to slot right back in, and Fabinho will be our substitute who will come on when, to slow things down once the game is in our hands.
I completely agree with Param. I feel like Fabinho cannot be our backup or a second option to Van Dijk or his partner in crime for the entire season. I feel like Fabinho's importance is underrated because the fact that he is our king in transitions. Klopp has mentioned that he is the person in the midfield who wins back the balls and starts transitions. And I feel like Fabinho should play in the game with Henderson and Thiago. Now, this will be kind of controversial. Now, here's the thing. Thiago has just come into the team, and the way we play is Fabinho sits at the back, Wijnaldum and Henderson cover our fullbacks because the fullbacks are up front. So we need a lot of energy in the midfield to cover our fullbacks. Now, Thiago has just come in the midfield, and the way he played in Bayern was a two pivot with Martinez. And a week of sessions, I don't know how comfortable Klopp would be of keeping it as, with Henderson, but I wouldn't mind watching Thiago with his beautiful passes. So we'll see how it goes.
No, I think I kind of disagree with that because, even after one training session, he came in to the side, he played 45 minutes and he played actually very good. He created a few chances also. And, with the problem with Thiago, with Henderson, Fabinho and Wijnaldum is, there's there's no creativity at all when these three are playing. Yeah, we do play well with them, but, like with Thiago adding in, he'll just add a little spice, a little magic to the midfield. He'll create more chances. He'll be more, his pass will be more upfront and through. So I really think Thiago should be starting because he can control the game with Henderson. He'll give our defensive line a good, he falls back also, he goes ahead also. So, there's a good mix to his game. So I really think Thiago, Henderson, and Wijnaldum, Keita, either like one of them, I don't mind. So I think that would be the perfect midfield for me.
See, I personally think that I do agree with you that Fabinho is your best out and out CDM.
Yeah,
But when it comes to dictating the play and controlling the game, I don't think there is anyone in the world as good as Thiago. The closest one
agreed.
to him is Verratti. I feel that.
Agreed.
But the good thing about Thiago is that he can play in the attacking midfielder role too, so he can create chances
Exactly.
for others. So
Exactly.
you guys know more about this, but yeah, Vedant, you have a point.
No, I mean, I completely agree with Param. I think he has he is our best midfielder in terms of creative aspect. We don't have creative midfielders in our team, and Thiago is going to provide that. No, I'm talking about in terms of creative passes and chances created. You cannot beat Thiago. Thiago is the best in passing ability and creating chances. When I meant that Thiago might not play, and why Param is saying that he should play, and the reason I feel a little iffy is because Wijnaldum and Henderson were our key elements in covering our fullbacks. And Thiago, if he plays as a CDM, then I'm okay with it. But if he plays as the left midfielder, he has to track back our fullbacks. It's different systems, guys. I mean, regardless, he'll make a difference. My only concern was that if he plays with Fabinho, he has to track back and cover our fullbacks. That's all my concern. But I'm sure he's an elite midfielder. He'll adjust. It's just a concern for me. Maybe I'm overthinking it too much. Obviously, I wouldn't mind him playing. But yeah, I'm excited for the next week.
Yeah. Regarding the creativity aspect, I still feel that the Premier League hasn't seen what Keita can do.
Exactly.
So it'll be interesting regarding the Arsenal game that if he plays or not. Yeah, Param, you have a point.
Yeah, because I think Keita, as Shanky said, he has a lot to show. He has a lot to show, like, when it comes to creativity and making chances. So I think he's like, he has been injured for most of last season. And yeah, so I think Thiago, Keita, Henderson would be my midfield three. And if that is the midfield three that Klopp chooses, I honestly pray for Arsenal. I pray for their safety. I'm sounding too cocky, but I genuinely don't think they stand a chance if these three start playing with the front three. And if Gomez has a good game, I really don't see Arsenal having a chance unless there's some Aubameyang magic and all. But we'll find out as the game goes on and as the weekend goes on. So I think that's it for this week's episode, and yeah, we'll see you guys next week for sure.